Today, well, we're going to be talking about something pretty interesting and that I've actually had a few comments asking me to do a video on. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about Dino Dana Live, which is very weird and confusing, and there's no images for this, and there's not really much information on this, but most of this is from the Dino Dana wiki, which I'm not gonna lie, the Dino Dana wiki kind of sucks, so take this with a big grain of salt. But we're pretty much just going to be going over all the information we have for this. And yeah, so first, here's pretty much just a good chunk of the information we have, but we're going to go over each part of it one by one. So pretty much this show actually released and was actually active for pretty much 1 month, from September 1st to September 18th. I mean September 20th, well not 20th, September 31st. I don't know why I'm so bad at getting the date, but September 1st to September 31st, which is interesting since there's no September 31st. But anyways, yeah, pretty much just ran the whole month of September in the year 2018, which is pretty interesting because that is the same time season would have been at least the same year that season 2 would have released. So yeah, it's kind of weird. Maybe the show actually takes place during season 2. But anyways, which also stated that they would have been trying to solve Dino Experiment 965, which is pretty much just trying to figure out the colors of dinosaurs, which is pretty weird that they're actually trying to cover this, since this is kind of an iffy topic since we don't know the color of most dinosaurs. There are some dinosaurs we know the color of, but none of them are in the show, so that's pretty weird. Anyways, pretty much some things that they would be doing in the show is apparently Dana would have to save her mother from the Quetzalcoatlus, but I'm guessing she wasn't taken by the Quetzalcoatlus, and probably the Quetzalcoatlus was just trying to eat her or something like that, and the mother probably didn't even notice the Quetzalcoatlus trying to do anything. But anyways, also she's apparently going to have to escape a herd of Hippodrako, which is pretty interesting. And also, this is something we'll loop back around to in a little bit. She would have to sneak pack a sleeping Allosaurus, which if you didn't know is not in the show. So this means it's one of the many new dinosaurs, which there are a lot of dinosaurs in the show. Anyways, another thing that I found pretty interesting about the show is that the intro to the show would have been pretty much kind of like the intro to the actual series, where it would have pretty much been going past the dinosaurs. It would have been the same thing kind of, except probably with different dinosaurs, and also it would have actually been in Dana's neighborhood, which honestly I think would be really cool to see. Kind of a shame that we don't actually get to see it. Okay. Anyways, next, something pretty interesting about this is that it's not like an actual active show. It's pretty much just a movie, being played at a stage, which is pretty interesting. So this is literally just Dino Dana the movie, except before Dino Dana the movie ever released. Which it's weird that Dino Dana the movie got promoted and released while this did not, which is kind of leading to my suspicions if this was ever even a real thing. But I'm kind of hoping that it was, and that we actually do get it released, since it is pretty interesting. Another thing is that this film was literally 2 hours, 89 minutes, and 12 seconds, which if you didn't know is like twice the length of the actual movie, which I believe actually a little bit, because I think the movie's about an hour 25 minutes, so like over twice as long as the actual movie. So that means that this is a really long film. So now we're going to go over all the dinosaurs, which I'm going to mention what kind of way the dinosaur appears. But first we're going to start with the dinosaurs that actually appeared in the show. So yeah, first we have Albertosaurus, Archaeopteryx, Allosaurus, which is pretty interesting to see since Allosaurus is, was not in the show, though it was probably cut from Dino Dana. So did they have a model from Dino Dana, they just reused it for this? Or did they make a new Allosaurus model? If so, are we going to see Allosaurus and Dino Dex? Anyways, also, why did we not see it in the show, if so? Anyways, now moving on to the next one, which is Apatosaurus, which is one of the Dino Dana website species. Was it the actual model from the Dino Dana website, or did they make an updated one also? Why has it not appeared in the show yet? Brachiosaurus, Baryonyx, another interesting one, which we actually have no idea what this probably would have looked like at all, since we actually don't know what any of these really look like. But apparently, I forgot to mention on the Dino Dana, we'll get to one of the species that actually shows that someone must have seen it, at least that commented on the Dino Dana wiki, because there is a description of at least one of the dinosaurs from the show. But anyways, Baryonyx, pretty interesting one. Corythosaurus, Compsognathus, Diplodocus, Dracorex, Edmontosaurus, Photolonchosaurus, Guanlong, another species that we actually have not seen in the show, which is pretty interesting. And why did it not appear in the show? And will it appear in Dino Dex? Next is Gastornis, which is another interesting one, since honestly I think it looked like they could have used Gastornis a few times in the show especially. But anyways, next, Hippodraco, Kentrosaurus, Cosmoceratops, Lesotosaurus, which is pretty interesting again since there's no Triassic creatures in the show. That this guy could have been, especially in the last episode where they needed some Triassic animals, so which means they have a model for Lesotosaurus. If this is true. Will we see it in Dino Dex? Who knows? Nandukosaurus, Ozoraptor, Oviraptor, another interesting one which I think would have been extremely awesome to see in the show and for some reason did not appear. Psittacosaurus, Pterodactylus, Pachyrhinosaurus, another really interesting one that I know a lot of people will want to see and hopefully it appears in Dino Dex. Phosphora Draco, which is another really weird one that didn't appear since we only have 3 pterosaurs in the show and this would have been a nice addition and there are more pterosaurs. But anyways, Pachycephalosaurus, which means Pachycephalosaurus' model has been around for a long time and its first debut was not in the movie, it was in the Dino Dana Live, which is really confusing. Next we have Pteranodon, another species that people would love to see, and there's actually, this one actually may have actually, we may actually know what this one may have looked like since, in the Dino Dex teaser trailer, there's some pterosaurs flying in the back, but I know some people said that's Pteranodon, but it's really, you can't really tell what it is, so it might not be Pteranodon. It may just be a generic pterosaur for all we know. But again, Pteranodon, surprised this guy didn't appear on the show, they do. Quetzalcoatlus, Railjosaurus, which is another Triassic animal that would have made a great addition, especially in that last episode of Dino Dana. Spinosaurus, Stygimoloch, Stegosaurus, Sinornithosaurus, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Triceratops, Titanoboa, Velociraptor, another interesting one. Would it, what would his model have looked like? Would they have, did they have a model for Velociraptor already and they just haven't used it in any other place? And, or did it just have the Dino Dex design, which is really weird in that we don't actually really know any of this stuff. And it's kind of, we'll get into more of that later, but would it have had the Dino Dex design, since we do have a design for Velociraptor and Dino Dex. Next, and the last one of these being Zool. Now we move on to these, which are kind of confusing, but I believe these are just dinosaurs that only appeared at a specific part in the show. But Balasaurus made an appearance apparently in the Quetzalcoatlus scene, which is pretty weird since Balasaurus is kind of just a background dinosaur, but that may explain its presence in some of the Dino Dan surrounding media for some reason. But we also have Euoplocephalus, which only appeared in the field guide scene, which I don't know if it means it was actually shown alive or if it was shown in the field guide. Next we have Elasmotherium, which was shown in the field guide scene. Was it actually in the field guide, or was it, again, an actual live creature? Also, we're getting a woolly rhino and Dino Dex, which, for all we know, could actually also be an Elasmotherium, but most likely it's a woolly rhino. Will it look like this? I really don't know. The Albiceratops also only appeared in the field guide scene. Same for Troodon, only appeared in the field guide scene and in the opening scene. Pretty interesting. Giganotosaurus appeared in the opening scene and in the field guide scene. Amargasaurus only appeared in the opening, which is interesting. Same for Brontotherium, only in the opening. Carnotaurus only appeared in the opening. All I have to say, Sinking Ship, if you have a Carnotaurus model, I'm begging you, please include it in Dino Dex. I just really want to see Carnotaurus in the franchise. Also, it's weird if they really did make a model for Carnotaurus, but never actually put it in the film, only used it in the opening, which is really, really weird in my opinion. Next, we have Dromaeosaurus, only in the opening. Incisimosaurus, only in the opening. Microraptor, only in the opening. Meganeura, only in the opening. Pretty interesting. Nanotyrannus, another Dino Dana the movie species, also only appeared in the opening, which is really weird. Pterodactyl only in the opening. Smilodon only in the opening. Titanus only in the opening. Therizinosaurus only in the opening. Ungulia only in the opening. Woolly mammoth in the opening. And then we have an unnamed ornithopod, which appeared only in the opening, but we do have, this is the only species we actually have a description of, though to be fair, the Dino Dana Wiki is really bad at describing dinosaurs, completely getting them wrong, but apparently it's a red color with tan stripes on the tail, so yeah, mostly a reddish, dark reddish color, so who knows, this image doesn't really match that, but I just used an image we wanted on, since we actually don't know what ornithopod this would have been, again, if this show actually happened. Then we have Maiasaura only appearing in the opening and in the end. Then we have Europasaurus only appearing at the end. Deinosuchus only mentioned. Dinotherium, another really interesting one. And this is kind of sidetracked, but the Dino Dana Wiki is not really good, and they have Dinotherium in the wiki, but they never explain where it's from at all. But I just found out apparently it's in Dino Dana Live. A little bit nice to know that. But anyways, Dinotherium only was mentioned. Leviathan only mentioned. And Procompsognathus, apparently maybe they heard the call of it in the show, and it is also mentioned. Protoceratops only mentioned. Tarbosaurus mentioned only. And yeah, those were pretty much all the species from there, which is pretty interesting. There are a lot of species that we don't actually have any evidence of their existence in the show, and they, for some reason, never appeared in the show at all, which is really weird, especially since some of these are really popular species which people wanted to see for a long time. So that does get me questioning if these species are, if this show is actually real, and if these guys actually did appear in it. Another thing is, again, there's no evidence for this. I can't really find any other website talking about it. The only thing I can find is on the Dino Dana wiki. So, yeah. Anyways, here are all the species that, again, were mentioned to be in the show that actually had a physical appearance. And we're not counting any of the ones that were just mentioned or just shown in the field guide. I'm talking just ones that were most likely actually had a 3D model. There are a lot of species here that I think could have appeared in the show and should have appeared in the show. So honestly, that is one thing confusing me, though. Generally, I'd love to see pretty much all of these, especially Carnotaurus. And yeah, that's pretty much all we know for Dino Dana Alive, which is pretty interesting. If anyone knows of any images or anything else about the show, or if they've actually seen the show, or even know if the show is real, or maybe this was just a joke or something, if anyone knows anything of the sorts about that, please comment down below and I'll make a follow-up video. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys are just as confused as me, let me know. But anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.
Sometimes life gets hectic. Luckily, Rover makes pet care easy. Manage bookings as easily as a walk in the park. Rover, loving pet care in your neighborhood. Easily book a sitter today.
Search and play Block Breaker in the Google app. Just type Block Breaker to get into the game. Bouncing balls and blasting bricks, level after level, right in the Google app. Search, play, repeat. Download the Google app.